I am sick of seeing Black Americans in the media, on social media, in the news, doing crime. If you are Black and you take issue with it and you talk about it, you are usually called bourgeois, sedity, uppity, it's respectability politics, you're policing Black bodies and the like. And it's like, no, I'm Black too. And as such, this being my ethnic culture as well, I have a right to have something to say.
How come people try to say Blackness is one specific thing?
Little 2 cents that nobody asked for. I am sick of seeing Black Americans in the media, on social media, in the news, doing crime, walking around next to naked, the women, the men perpetuating gang violence, substance abuse. The absolute worst of our community is oversaturating the media, even though they make up a small percentage of all of Black Americans. The decay of our morality within Black communities has been slowly declining over the past 20 years, and no one is talking about it, no one is saying anything about it or trying to address it. And if you do, you are often told that you're policing Black bodies. If you say Black women, stop getting on the internet and in the media, twerking, walking around with little clothes on. People tell you that you're policing bodies, policing Black.
Here's the thing, when you get on social media, sometimes you can kind of get into a bubble where everything that you see kind of exclamates your own beliefs. And I try not to do that when it comes to, let's say, Black media, where you see Black people online doing certain things that you know it doesn't represent the entirety of Black culture. But my problem with that statement right there is that, let's say you were to call them out online. Let's say you go on Twitter and you see someone not wearing clothes or whatever, or them doing something extremely inappropriate or something that's just not, you can't show your children. If you see someone doing something you can't show children and you call them out, my only problem is that people will attack you for calling that out. And that kind of tells me that maybe this isn't just a bubble. Maybe you're not only seeing the bubble, because if you're being adamantly attacked for saying, this is wrong, people smoking online, doing crime online, doing things online, if you're being attacked for saying this, then obviously it's a part of some culture, and that definitely needs to change.
Black bodies, or it's respectability politics. If you are Black and you speak your piece on what we're seeing in the media, if you don't like seeing the low morality that is often portrayed about the Black community in the media, from the trap music to the Black women twerking in music videos and all over social media, the Sukihanas and the Sexy Reds of the world. If you are Black and you take issue with it and you talk about it, you are usually called bourgeois, sedity, uppity, it's respectability politics, you're policing Black bodies and the like. And it's like, no, I'm Black too. And as such, this being my ethnic culture as well, I have a right to have something to say about what I'm seeing going on.
And that's another thing too. How come people try to say Blackness is one specific thing? And what I mean by that is, let's say she calls out certain activities she sees. They're going to say, and these are her words, they're going to say she's uppity or she's bougie or whatever, basically alluding to her Blackness not being as strong as the person or people she's calling out. And that's my problem. How come one person is considered more Black than the other based off of their activities? That in itself is kind of racist, because just because you do certain things doesn't mean you're more Black than me. I am Black. Like, it doesn't matter what somebody does. It's an ethnicity. So when you try to tie an entire identity of someone into certain actions and then try to denounce someone else's identity because they don't partake in certain actions, that is ignorant and literally racism. You can't, it doesn't make sense to me, but it happens a lot in this community. That's like if you're white and you do a stereotypical activity for another culture and someone says, oh, you're less white now, or you're not, there's no way you can be white, or you're acting, that it doesn't make sense, right? But it happens in the Black community a lot that I see.
Your average Black American is a middle class, working class, blue collar Jane and Joe. The ghetto subculture, Black ghetto subculture that we see often portrayed and over inundated and oversaturating the media Those Black Americans make up a tiny, tiny percentage of Black Americans as a whole. But somehow they're in the media, overcompensating in the media, oversaturating the media. I know I don't just speak for myself when I say that I'm sick of seeing it, that it's gross, that it is destroying what Black culture actually is. It's co-opting Black culture as a whole and making it seem as though all of Black culture is ghetto subculture. I'm not the only Black American who takes issue with it. Because like I said, majority of Black America is middle class, not in the ghettos, not out here perpetuating gang violence, promiscuity, and everything else. And I don't care if you claim it's respectability politics. I guess so be it. Because this is gross. It's getting really gross out here how blatantly disrespectful and low class we're acting on social media and in the media, on the internet, on TV. And you can claim that this is someone else's set of moral standards, but no, it isn't. It isn't. Look at Black America in the 50s, in the 60s. Our moral standards back then, drastically different from what we have today.
Nah, this is facts, man. But I would actually disagree with her. I don't think majority people have a problem with it. I think most people think it's entertaining and they let it happen. And here's why I say that. Look at any community. It doesn't even have to be race. Let's just look at a basketball team or a soccer team. And let's say a student or a child on this team has a really bad attitude. They knock over other people's Gatorades. They hide other people's shoes or basketball shoes, or they hide all the balls. And the parents see this happening, or even the other teammates see this happening. But rather than the parents or other teammates trying to stop this kid or trying to say this is not cool, don't do that, they laugh at it. They say, oh, that's funny, man, where'd you put the they laugh at it and say, oh, he's so bad, or oh, that's cool, look, what is he gonna do next game? That's kind of the attitude and demeanor that comes with the certain behaviors in the Black community that are acceptable or seen as entertainment. When you laugh at it, or you kind of push it forward, or you kind of entertain it, or think it's a part of the culture, you are promoting it in a way because you know it could be wrong, but it's so fun for you to watch that you are pushing it forward. And it gets so bad to the point where you blame other people for saying that's not cool, that's not right, that's dirty, that's disgusting. You look at them kind of funny because you look at it as entertainment. You kind of, it's fun to you to watch. And that's why I brought up the sports analogy, because if you're on a team and you have a bad apple on a team, usually the other teammates will say that's not cool, or the parents will say, no, we're not doing that, you got to get your kid off this team. That's what's going to happen, and that's what should happen in any community. If there's a bad apple or a bad thing happening, the community should say, no, this is not acceptable, we're not entertaining this. But the opposite happens sometimes in the Black community, where we look at something and we say, oh, it's funny and they can do what they want. That's what's happening for real.
Or what we're convincing ourselves is a moral standard today. Every racial group on the face of the planet has their own ghetto subculture within their respective racial and ethnic groups. This is the case for everybody, everywhere. White people, Asian people, Mexican people, you name it. The difference is that those racial groups and those ethnic groups do not allow their ghetto subculture to co-opt the entire culture as a whole and to represent the entire culture as a whole. They don't allow it. Everybody else within that respective ethnic group or cultural group or racial group has a right to say how they want to see themselves represented in the media, what they want to see and what they don't want to see, who gets to speak for them and who does not. Except for when you're a Black American and you have something to say about the way that you see Black Americans being portrayed in the media, and you have a critique for your peers. You can't do it because it's respectability politics if you attempt to do it. Or you're judging your peers by a set of moral standards that somebody else created, which is a farce. From the Reconstruction era down through the 60s, Black Americans had their own set of moral standards and social protocols that we adhered to. Ask your grannies, ask your great grannies, they'll tell you. I have had just about enough of seeing Black culture being drugged through the muck by other Black Americans who are perverting it and turning Black culture, something that is beautiful, into something perverse. Showing their ass on the internet all the time. The men are constantly rapping and talking about gang violence. Our children are uneducated and stupid. We've created a cultural standard of promiscuity and single motherhood. And when a Black American goes to critique and judge our peers, our fellow Black Americans, and critique the condition of our neighborhoods today, they're shut down. That's just.
And what's crazy is that what she's saying will probably be ridiculed. But look at the statistics. What she's saying is right. The rise of single motherhood is going up. And this is not an attack on mothers who happen to be single. I'm not doing that in the slightest. Because sometimes some things happen. However, if this thing is a cultural phenomenon, then it's not sustainable, or it's not the best opportunities or the best situations for their children. And if this is happening on a cultural base, then there's something that we can change in our community. If we have some of the lowest literacy levels, that's something that we can change. If we have some of the lowest level of degrees or persons pursuing trades, yes, these are things that we can change and we should be trying to change. But from what I see, the opposite is happening. Don't get me wrong. The number of degrees within the Black community are going up. The number of degrees are going up, but right now we're not necessarily moving at a positive slope. We're honestly going down in terms of financial success, economic success, literacy levels. And it sucks to say that because that's not something that I want. This is not something that I want to say on my channel for views or anything. This is just what I've been viewing, and I wish it wasn't that. But let's continue.
Respectability politics. You're policing Black Americans. If that's what it is, so be it. So be it. It needs to be said. And in order for us to attempt to escape accountability or responsibility on our own part, we claim that the conditions that we see in Black communities is being caused by somebody else. It's not our own fault. It's white people and it's structural racism or something or another. It's everybody else's fault except for our own. Give me a break.
And I don't want to pause it too much, but I have to talk on that. I hate when people say that, because when you have an issue, imagine this. You have your own house and there's mold in your house. And instead of you trying to fix the mold in your house, you bang on your neighbor's door and you say, "What did you do to cause this mold in my house?" They're going to look at you like you're crazy. They are literally going to look at you like you're insane. And their honesty is going to start a new problem that you didn't even initially have. And this is kind of what's happening in the Black community. Let's say we have our own issues. We are saying, if we say another race or another subset of people caused this issue, not only are those people going to look at you crazy, you just caused an entire new problem with another subset of people that didn't even exist before. So now not only are you fighting your issue, you're fighting them. And it just doesn't make sense. You're kind of accusing them of something that they didn't cause. And now you're going back and forth with them. Meanwhile, the issue is still getting worse. It's not.
Pitiful. It's pitiful that we refuse to take accountability for the things that we see going on in our communities. And sure, we can acknowledge that structural racism and the history of slavery in this country and discrimination and Jim Crow and Black codes and all of that has played a part in the conditions and some of the conditions that we see in Black communities. But we also have to be responsible for the ways in which Black Americans create their own conditions and contribute to the degenerative effects that we see going on in our communities. Black Americans who don't want to hear that immediately run to innocence. They rush to innocence. They claim that it's respectability politics to call out these issues in our community. They claim that it's policing Black bodies to call out the low morality and the moral decay in our community. Call it whatever you want. You're not going to get me to shut up about it. I'm Black. This is my culture too. I have a right to talk about and critique what is happening in my culture and have something to say about it.
Yeah, man. Let me know what you thought about this video. This was very insightful. Anyways, it's Elephant Jojo, and I'll see y'all next time.